Good evening and a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here on Hope TV News Watch on this 8th day of November 2022. I hope your week is going on well. Thank you for choosing us to inform you the stories making headlines in the country. And on the stories making headlines, we will be having an interview with Onesimus Maluki Mutio, who is the University Academic Staff Union UWASU National Organizing Secretary, to talk to us on all matters university funding or its lack thereof. Education CS Ezekiel Machogu has since clarified that the government will continue to fund public universities and colleges. My name is Grace Wangoi, and our sign language interpreter tonight is Boniface Moredi. Let's begin. It is a sigh of relief after striking Kenya Airways pilots finally agreed to an unconditional return to work agreement with their employer. The agreement was reached after the Nairobi Employment and Labor Relations Court, Judge Anna Maure, ordered the striking pilots under the association CALPA to resume work by Wednesday morning as negotiations between the association and the Kenya Airways continues. The court issued the orders after fruitless efforts to allow the pilots come to an agreement with Kenya Airways on a temporary return to work formula. Tess Njenga begins our bulletin.
It is a sigh of relief for many Kenyans and tourists who have been unable to travel through Kenya Airways after its pilots were this afternoon ordered to unconditionally call off their strike. As the strike entered its fourth day today, Nairobi Employment and Labor Relations Court Judge Anne Mwaure directed pilots and Kenya Airways management to reach an agreement over the stalemate and consent to be ready by 2:30 this afternoon.
The respondent members, and especially the Kenya Airways pilots, to resume their duties as pilots by 6 a.m. on 9th November 2022 unconditionally.
When they failed to do so, the judge ordered the striking pilots to resume work by 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning as negotiations between the association and Kenya Airways continue.
This court issued an order yesterday around 3 p.m. summoning the officials of the respondents to appear in court and explain why they should not be punished for disobeying the court order. It is gratifying that they all made time to come to court promptly, and that is a good sign of individuals who appear now desirous to comply with court order.
The judge at the same time ordered the national carrier to allow the pilots perform their duties without harassment, intimidation, or taking any disciplinary action against them pending determination of the suit.
The applicants KQ to allow the pilots to perform their duties without harassing them or intimidating them, and especially by not taking any disciplinary action against any of them pending the hearing and determination of these suits. 3, the respondents are given until Friday, 11th November 2022 to file their reply to the applications dated 28th November 2022 and application dated 6th November 2022 and serve the applicants accordingly.
Kenya Airways Chief Executive Officer Alan Kilavuka yesterday asked pilots to return to work or risk being fired. The pilots donned their tools to protest, among other issues, the withdrawal of staff retirement fund by the management. Reporting for Hope TV News Watch, I'm Tess Njenga.
Thank you, Tess, for that report. Moving on, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu has clarified his stance on funding public universities and colleges, saying his sentiments are dead and Kimathi University were misunderstood. Speaking in Kiambu, where he laid the foundation of construction works at the Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology, CS Machogu said the government will continue supporting universities through capitation and even avail infrastructural funds. He, however, called on public universities to pursue other ways of generating income. Public universities and colleges will continue to receive funds from the government after all. This is according to Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu, who now says his sentiments are dead on Kimathi University and withdrawing of funds to public universities and colleges who are misunderstood. Addressing the press, CS Machogu also noted that although the government will continue funding public universities should still look for innovative ways to generate revenue to support their programs.
Our universities relax, get assured that the government will continue the way it has been doing over the years to fund our universities, but we are also asking, and this is what we agreed when I was in Dedan Kimathi University, that if there are other ways that we can also be able to generate income for our universities, why not?
Machogu at the same time noted that the government has allocated 50 billion shillings capitation for university education and 15.8 billion shillings to the Higher Education Loans Board, a matter he indicated shows government's commitment to support the two subsectors.
50 billion for university, and I want to assure our universities that the 50 billion and the other 15 billion to the Higher Education Board, this is ring-fenced, and nobody's interfering with that money. Even the cost-cutting measures that are being undertaken with other sectors of the economy for education, all the funds as allocated by Parliament are ring-fenced.
His sentiments at Dedan Kimathi had attracted uproar from the public and different stakeholders in the education sector. The Kenya Union of Special Needs Education Teachers, KUSNET, had accused President William Ruto's administration for mishandling the education sector owing to the proposal to stop funding of public varsities. According to National Secretary General James Terome, the move of scrapping the funds will see learners from poor backgrounds drop out of school.
So for him now to withdraw that little funding, it means majority of the learners from the poor background are going to drop out of the school. So we are advising him, let him call all the education sector and discuss that matter so that we see how we are going to make the education sector to run smoothly.
On Monday, University's Academic Staff Union WASU called on the Ministry of Education to resolve the funding problem plaguing public universities. Solidarity forever. According to WASU Secretary General Constantine Wasonga, withdrawal of the funds will limit learners from poor backgrounds from accessing higher education.
And as a union, we've been wondering, what informed this? Public universities are struggling, and you take the students that should bring money to public universities and take them to private entities. When the CS, Minister of Education, was being vetted in Parliament, he was asked this question, and he promised to deal with the cartels at the Ministry of Education. We are worried that now the cartels at the Ministry of Education that influence this archaic policy of taking government-sponsored students to private universities are now influencing him again. For the union makes us strong.
Moving on, Inspector General of Police nominee Japhet Koome on Tuesday appeared before a joint vetting panel of the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations of the Senate and the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs of the National Assembly. Speaking before the committee, Koome expressed that he was well experienced and disclosed that he has served in the police service for 3 decades, comparing his experience to that of former DCI boss George Kinoti and his predecessor Hilary Mutyambai. Koome was nominated by President William Ruto in succession of former IG Hilary Mutyambai, whose position was declared vacant after he proceeded to terminal leave due to health issues. Stephanie Wamboy brings us the details.
Today, I am proud to announce the men and women who will serve in the cabinet.
Shortly after President William Ruto unveiled his list of cabinet nominees in September 2022, former Nairobi Regional Commander of Police Japhet Koome's nomination to the position of Inspector General of Police followed suit. He appeared before a joint vetting panel comprising of the Senate and National Assembly that sought to check his suitability for the position. Japhet, if found fit for the position, will succeed former Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai, who opted for terminal leave citing reasons related to ill health. The nomination comes as no surprise, as Japhet has previously held senior positions in the law enforcement arena, including Nairobi Regional Commander of Police, Sub-County Police Commander of the Central Police Station in Nairobi, and Senior Assistant of the Deputy Inspector General of Police. Addressing the legislators, Japhet acknowledged corruption as a plague that has eaten into the country's economy and society, affirming his commitment to prevent corruption cases should he be appointed to the position.
We are now at a point where we need to stamp authority. Things cannot continue as issue. At this level, I think we have seen it all. But there is a country for the generation to come. We are going to leave this country to future generation, to our children. We have reached a point where there has to be a conversation.
He further reiterated the importance of harmony within various national security agencies to ensure efficient delivery of services to the people in the country.
We are serving the same member of the public. There's not one member of the public for ODPP, for DPP, and another member of the public for the DCI or IG. It's the same member of the public. And at the end of the day, what we want is delivering service to Mwananchi. We must work together.
Koome addressed the issue of cattle rustling, which has claimed the lives and livelihoods of many, particularly in northern Kenya. The intensity of cases has risen as the country faces high levels of drought and famine, pushing many to crime.
Every year we lose about 51 billion in livestock industry. That's a substantial amount of money. And you've not even quantified. We can't quantify. You cannot put any value on a life lost.
Koome's nomination is, however, faced with opposition as a Nakuru-based doctor lodged a petition terming the nomination as illegal and unconstitutional. The petitioner, named Dr. Magare Gikenyi, based his argument on the provisions of Article 3 of the Constitution, which states that every person has an obligation to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution, and any attempt to establish a government otherwise than in compliance with the Constitution is unlawful. He argued that the move by the president will result in loss of public trust and outright abuse of power against independent institutions. Koome now awaits the decision by the bicameral House in determining his suitability for the position. Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Tiffany Wamboy.
Thank you, Tiffany, for that report. Moving on, Fafi Member of Parliament Salah Yakub has come out to publicly state that there are plans by the United Democratic Alliance legislators to replace the two-term limit of the presidency with an age limit of 75 years. The recent developments has brought about a heated debate in the political circles, with many questioning the timing of the proposal. As Kennedy Kimani now reports, the United Democratic Alliance Party has since distanced itself from the utterances by Salah Yakub, saying that the party has not been part of the discussions in regards to term limits, but it is busy implementing its manifesto.
Mimi na wabunge wenzangu tuko na mjadala inaendelea saa hizi, na mjadala yenyewe na tunataka kuambia Wakenya ya kwamba mambo ya two terms haiwezi kutosha sisi. Tunataka mjadala yenyewe ikuwe ya umri, mtu akifikisha 75 ndio hawezi contest.
It is these remarks by Fafi Member of Parliament Salah Yakub which have sparked a heated debate among Kenyans. Yakub has come out publicly explaining that there are plans by some MPs of the ruling UDA party to change the constitution and replace the two-term limit of the presidency with an age limit of 75 years. If this succeeds, then it means that President William Ruto will rule Kenya for 20 years, since he's 55 years old. According to constitutional lawyer George Ogubi, this issue is very serious and cannot be accepted by Kenyans.
One would look at it as a diversion. The president perhaps or the Kenya Kwanza legislators are maybe using this as a diversion having realized that they might not deliver on most of the promises that they promised Kenyans during the campaigns and even under their manifesto. It is a drawback from where I sit and from the constitutional gains that this country has made from time to time. You have to note that it is only Kenya and Tanzania within this region that we hold regular elections where the presidential age limit is capped.
For such a proposal to succeed, the sponsor of the bill will have to marshal 2/3 of the majority of MPs in both the Senate and the National Assembly, as well as the support of a simple majority by Kenyans in the referendum.
The BBI failed because the process was not followed. But the law is saying that should you follow the process, then at that time, and with the numbers that the Kenya Kwanza government claim to have, then at that time it will pass and it will become law. Whether Kenyans will agree to such kind of amendments, again, it's a question of time. But I think the reaction has already been put outside there, and Kenyans have come vehemently to oppose such kind of changes to the constitution. And for me, very interesting, I believe this regime of Kenya Kwanza will find it very difficult to make any amendments to the constitution.
President William Ruto's party UDA has however distanced itself from the sentiments by the Fafi legislator, stating that, and I quote, remarks by Fafi MP Salah Yakub that there are plans to extend term limits for the president are a product of a fertile imagination by the legislator. UDA distances itself from the utterances by the MP. The party has not been part of discussions in regard to term limits. The party is busy implementing the plan and will not be part of side shows, end of quote.
Whether the lawmaker from Fafi was speaking on his own personal terms or on behalf of somebody, it's a question of time and see what the future will bring. Let us look at the intention of this call to amend the constitution and change the presidential limit. What are the intentions of this person? Whose interest is this person serving?
The proposal to remove the presidential term limit has brought about a heated debate, more so in the political circles, with many questioning the timing of it. Whether the proposal will go through or not, only time will tell. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Thank you, Kimani, for that. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Sisi Wafula has said she's ready to work with other health officials to achieve universal health coverage. The CS was speaking at the Kenya Medical Supply Agency KEMSA National Supply Chain Center at Embakasi, Nairobi, where she noted that KEMSA will use ICT technology to ensure transparency that should allow citizens be able to monitor all activities done at the agency through digital platforms.
So my tour here today was to see how things are sitting back here and what are the things that we need to do in terms of improving our efficiencies to ensure that then KEMSA plays its part in our delivering of UHC to Kenyans. We have had quite very informative discussions with the CEO, Board of Directors, and we have agreed on a number of things that we need to do in terms of the bare minimums that we must achieve if we are to contribute positively towards universal healthcare. And one of the things that we have agreed with the Board of Directors and the CEO is improvement on operational efficiency, that we are able to increase our order fill rate from the current 56%, and we have a target to get to at least 80%, and we are hoping to achieve that in the next few months. The other thing that we have discussed, which the management is going to work towards through the board, is to ensure that we bring down the cost of HPTs.
Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza is appearing for the second day before the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, detectives for the second round of questioning over corruption allegations during his tenure at the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO Limited. The county boss spent the better part of Monday answering questions over the contract that saw the taxpayer pay over 18 billion shillings over the delay in construction of the transmission line for the electricity generated through the Lake Turkana wind power project. Barasa has, however, defended his role in the company, noting that his input had seen the project completed within 7 months.
Despite the hard terrain of 435 kilometers, we delivered the project in a record time. During project implementation, definitely you may have challenges because we had a contractor from Spain who was terminated because of bankruptcy. And I'm very proud as a Kenyan that we did the right thing to terminate a contractor who was bankrupt, and then we got a contractor who delivered the project on time, that is in 7 months. So as I stand here, I'm a very proud Kenyan that I managed to deliver a project that seemed impossible in a record 7 months. That is on 30th of August, 2018. As we speak right now, we are now getting electricity from wind, from Lake Turkana, because of the transmission line, which I was the key person implementing the line. So the issues I've come to confirm here is I believe in accountability as a public officer, and I will always even come anytime I'm required. Right now I'm a governor, anytime I'm required by any office to clarify on issues, I'll always honor that invitation.
Now, Kitui Governor Dr. Julius Malombe has proposed the introduction of 3% levy on all salaried Kenyans to meet the cost of implementing the country's education system. Speaking during a forum by the Presidential Working Party on education reforms at Kitui Social Hall, Governor Malombe said inadequate funding was the greatest challenge to basic education in the country. Meanwhile, the Kenyan National Union of Teachers NAT Kitui chapter has complained that teachers were not adequately involved to implement the competency-based curriculum CBC.
Ninawasihi wa Kenya, tafadhali tukubali kile tumependekeza hapa, tuwe na levy ya kufinance education, particularly at the lower level. Higher education tuna ile help, higher education loan board, lakini hii ingine hakuna. Na nimesema ama nimependekeza a levy kutoka wale ambao tuna mishahara ambao haizidi more than 3%. Ukiwa una mtoto ama una mtoto, huyo mtoto akisoma atasaidia economy yetu.
Government provides schools all needed materials as set out in the curriculum. All the costs go to the government. I don't know if this will save us our face. We are being accused of asking for chicken and eggs. But I want to be very clear that teachers, we can afford chicken and eggs at home.
A teacher who has not been given promotion is a demoralized teacher. A teacher who has not been deployed properly is a demoralized teacher. Even if the government did not call for these stakeholders engagement, I want to tell you, because this one is very timely, CBC ingekufa.
Let's now go for a fast break in Hope TV News Watch. But remember, we'll be having an interview with Onesmus Maluki Mutio, who is the organizing secretary for UWASU, to discuss all matters university and university funding. Don't go away.
Last week on Testify.
Kwenda kupiga kona hivi vitu tunasikia waizi ndia waizi. Nikaachilia TV chini. Tukapenya hivi unajua vile tuachilia zile vitu chini ilisaidia. Sasa wale watu wakoma tu kwa zile vitu.
Watch part 2 of Frederick Otieno's testimony on how he was reformed and got born again.
Na maisha yako kutoka ubadilike ukiangalia nyuma, yani unaonanga Mungu alikufanya nini?
Mungu nilianza nikisema wacha Mungu aitwe. Wacha Mungu aitwe. Mungu akisema atakubadilisha, atakubadilisha. Na ukimrudia anajua roho ile inaweza mrudia. Mungu hujua roho ya mwanadamu.
Only on Hope TV. Look and live. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Spotlight.
Do you feel like they are in a place where they can effect a Barack Obama moment?
When you hear the word of God and you hear Jesus is speaking.
Real talk on real issues.
You know, the Bible says faith without works is dead.
The truth of the gospel that will survive the time is not a health and wealth gospel.
When there is time to harmonize and bring one composite amendment.
With idealistic, thought-provoking guests.
So people come to be serviced, to be encouraged, to be empowered.
When the storm is over, you desire the closeness you have with God.
Hosted by Reverend Edward Furi. Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content, of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Hope TV is now available on GoTV Channel 103, Zuku Channel 873, Signet Channel 817, and StarTimes Channel 026. Enjoy our uplifting content and family-friendly programming anytime. Hope TV, you look and live.
Thank you for staying with us as promised. Our guest is in studio, Onesimus Maluki Mutio, the organizing secretary for UASU, and we'll be discussing all matters to do with university funding. Thank you so much for coming. Now, the CS has since retracted his statement saying the government will continue funding universities. But even prior to his statements, there was still the issue of inadequate funding for universities. Mr. Maliku, how dire is the situation, if you can paint the picture for us?
Well, thank you. I think the reality on the ground is that the public universities have been underfunded, and almost all public universities are currently in a deep financial crisis. And unless the government does something to save the situation in public universities, the situation is so bad that probably we might be forced to close some universities in the future, because most of the universities cannot beat their budgets. They are sinking into debt day by day, and it's not a very good situation in public universities.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, if you could paint the best scenario that the government was adequately funding universities, will this mean that students joining the university will find modern infrastructure perhaps? Or maybe if you could explain to us, does the underfunding affect the quality of education in public universities?
Yes, very true. Of course, the underfunding affects the quality of the education in the university in many ways. First, the funding model that the government is using to fund the public universities, which is a DUC, the differentiated unit cost, the government has been funding about 40% of the DUC. The proposal has been that they could increase that to around 80%. Now, if they did that, then that would perhaps solve the situations in the public universities. You realize that in many cases, the capitation from the government that comes to the universities is not even enough to pay the salaries. So, for example, you might find there are certain university, their wage bill or the budget for their salaries about, say, 100 million. And what they get from the government is about 70 million. So when they get the 70 million, they can only pay the net pay of the workers. And remember, they have the suppliers to pay, They have the statutory deductions like the KRA to pay. They have the third-party deductions like the pension deductions, the bank loans that have to be paid. So that means that they only pay the net salary, and therefore these other deductions, obligations cannot be paid. Now it means therefore that the university is sinking into debt day by day. Now coming to the quality of education, the reality is that, of course, it also affects the motivation of the lecturers and the facilities in many ways. As we speak right now, there is a university that is paying 57% of the net salary. Now, they are not able to pay their lecturers the full salary, and for the last few years, they have been paying 50%. I want to assure you, I don't think there's any work in this country that is paying 57% of their salary. But that is the situation in the university. Now, you realize that because of the underfunding, most universities have unemployed lecturers. And therefore, that what that means is that the other part of teaching is taken up by people that we call the part-time lecturers. Those are the lecturers that will come to teach on contract basis at go. Now, many universities do not pay the part-time workers. I know of the universities that have not paid since 2018 and 2019. So you are teaching a class now, you're working now in 2022, but you'll probably be paid in 2026 or 2027. Now that will really tell you the kind of quality that these people are going to offer to these students, because one, they're demotivated, and secondly, you are not likely to get those serious quality professionals coming through that kind of a job. And therefore, because of the inability to pay for the part-time, that also has affected the quality. Some cases you find there are some part-time lecturers who cannot even make it to class because they perhaps don't have anything. In fact, it is the lecturers that have been funding the public universities when it comes to teaching, because lecturers will pay from their own other sources to come and teach, and they are not being paid. So the underfunding in that way has highly affected the quality. Also in terms of infrastructure and other resources that are required, you realize that the university cannot, fund them well.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Maluki, if the CS mentioned that public universities here still maintained that they should look into innovative ways or other revenue streams in order to be able to get sufficient funding. What is your take on that?
Well, I think that statement for us, is regrettable. When he talks about universities coming up with innovative ideas to generate funds, how about other public parastatals? Are they also, and other government agencies, are they also going to generate their own funds? The key business of the university is teaching and research. And therefore, I don't understand what he means by us generating funds, because we are a public university, we are not a private entity, and our focus should not be in generating money, but into imparting knowledge into the students, and that is what we are paid to do. Well, I think he might be comparing the universities now with the universities a few years ago. Now, you realize that a few years ago, many public universities had several students under Module 2, or what we call the parallel students, because the many students who got the minimum requirement, which is C+, to go to the university, could not be admitted under the government program. So that means that they could come to the public universities through self-sponsored and pay fees that is higher than the government. And because many public universities used to admit many students under the self-sponsored program, then they used to earn, or they used to generate a lot of money. And perhaps by then they were able to meet their financial obligation. But you remember that a few years down, I think it was during Matiang'i's time, that they changed the structures and the policies, and now almost all the students that get the minimum requirement, that is C+, they are admitted to the university through a government through the government programs, and therefore there are no students who will come to the public university to pay their own money under the self-sponsored, which the universities use to generate money. Now, in the absence of the self-sponsored students, and also the private universities are also coming now to private universities are also competing with the few students that are there. We have also seen a case where the government is also taking the government sponsored students to the private university. That is also now means that the money that could have gone to the public universities are now going to private entities. We don't understand what logic was that, and therefore we feel that we feel that for him to say that the university should come up with innovative ways to generate money, I want to assure you there's only one way that the university right now can generate that kind of money, is for the private universities to charge the same fees as the private universities. And if that is going to happen, then so many Kenyans are not going to afford university education. It is only going to be left for the rich. If you compare the fees that is paid in private universities and the fees that is paid in the public universities, there's a huge difference. Very few Kenyans can afford to educate their students, their children in private universities.
Now, COVID-19 taught us that we don't have to be physically in class to be taught. Are we looking at a situation where public universities can embrace online learning so as to cut costs?
You know, online learning has been there, and especially after the COVID-19, most of the universities began going on online. Most of the universities, when right now they are doing blended, whereby you meet for sometimes and a few classes, and then you also meet them online. Well, that can also cut cost, but still it does not, the difference may not be so much, but yes, that can also be used in a way to cut cost. In that, as if I'm just teaching from my sitting room, then I'm able to meet many students. I can combine classes and teach them, and that can also, in a way, cut cost. Yes, it can, but I don't think it will be so significant as to bridge the gap. That if the government stopped funding the public universities, that cannot be an option to bridge the gap. Yes.
Now, we've had incidences of cases of looting in universities. Just a few years ago, a local station ran with a story that Masai Mara University, there was a case where 177 million shillings was looted by the Vice Chancellor. Of course, the case is still ongoing in court. She is innocent until proven guilty. But what do you think the government can do? What measures can it do? Are structures put in place to ensure that this little funding that is coming to universities is adequately and efficiently used?
Well, of course, there has been a few cases where there's been mismanagement in the public universities. Some vice chancellors are not very straightforward, and because maybe they end up employing their own relatives around them, then they end up mismanaging the funds. And I want to say that in a way that has also led to the financial problems that we have. But again, coming to your question, yes, it is true, it is right that the government is able to come up with the structures and to be able to monitor and to audit public universities to ensure that the funds that comes to the universities are used properly. But again, that should not be used to deny public universities money just because one or two vice chancellors have mismanaged funds. Those could be one or two cases, but I believe most of the vice chancellors are good, they are honest, they are good managers with finances, and therefore I think that could not be used as a reason not to fund public universities, because the government should have good mechanisms to ensure that those rogue vice chancellors who mismanage public funds are taken into account. They should account for that. And they also need to ensure that we have good managers in our public universities, so that as the government comes in to fund the university, then those mismanagement are not there. As a union, we have also been fighting these cases where we feel that some vice chancellors are contributing to financial mismanagement, and we've always, voiced our concerns that universities' resources, which are public resources, need to be managed properly with good accountability. Yes.
The CBC Review Task Force is going around counties taking views from the members of the public. I understand they're also supposed to take views on regarding university funding. As a union, what are the sentiments you have shared so far with the task force?
Well, we are, that's a process that we're going about the CBC. You see, I think one of the key challenges is that the CBC was done in a hurry. They did not take time to develop the curriculum. They did not take time to do the piloting so that they could see the viability of the CBC. And I think generally that is the challenge that we're having. Now, you realize that in a few years, these students will come to the university. As lecturers, we don't know what we're going to teach. And it is the same challenge that is being faced by the teachers who themselves do not know what they are going to teach these students, because the competence-based curriculum focuses more on the students developing, the competence by himself. So the teacher is just there to guide the students. But sometimes because the teachers themselves were not trained on how to guide the students, then they also face this challenge. So we are also, we are also wondering when they come to university, so what are we going to teach? We need time to think around with the team. We'll present our views to them. And we want to see, as these students prepare to come to the university, what are we going to teach them? Because we feel the reality is that they need to be taught different curriculum than this one they are teaching. Another challenge that we are also having is that meant to understand that there's no ranking of the students. This one has gotten an A, this one has gotten an E. So how are we going to determine who goes to study medicine and who goes to study other social sciences? Who goes to do this course and who goes to do the other course? I think that's a challenge that we are waiting to see how that will be done, because different courses will require different grades in different fields of academic, so that our students can excel. So here we have students who are not being ranked, they are not being evaluated. We're still wondering how are we going to differentiate who studies what and who studies what field.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Just to take you back, we've mentioned that underfunding is the biggest challenge for public universities, but there are also other challenges that students face while universities: the issue of missing marks, the issues of learners finishing the entire 4-year course and not graduating because of one mistake or another. What can you say on universities embracing digital technology in order to ensure that these little mishaps that learners face during their stay in schools are managed?
I think part of that is also due to the underfunding. Sorry, because some universities I know, they have got missing marks because the part-time lecturers will choose to withhold the marks. And they say, unless I'm paid what I've taught for the last 4 years, I'm not going to release the marks. And the university cannot cook marks for these students. And therefore, the students will end up, being the one to suffer, because the lecturer has disappeared with the marks. He says, I cannot produce the marks unless I'm paid. And the university cannot, come up with other marks to give the students. That will be an irregularity. And therefore, partially also, part of the missing marks have also been contributed by underfunding. But again, I think the issues of missing marks, there have been very few cases in very few universities, but I think these are a few challenges that can be handled administrative-wise. I think all universities now are, they have digital ways of keying in marks, so that once you mark, you key in marks very well. And the issue of missing marks, I think unless cases where a lecturer willingly withholds marks for those reasons, then I think those are the issues of missing marks have been well addressed in most of the universities.
Mm-hmm. For sure, I can tell you the issue of missing marks is a huge, huge thing for university students, but we can discuss that on a different day. Yes. Now, there's a new administration, there's a new CS. What words of wisdom can you share with them as they begin their tenure to better and improve the education system in the country, even as we wind up?
Well, I think what we expect from this new government is that first they need to focus in education, especially their education. Because if you're talking about economic growth, economic development, then you must put key efforts in the education sector. And therefore, we expect that the new CS is going to come up with ways on how to save the universities from collapsing financially. Let him bring all the stakeholders around the table. Let us talk and let us see how we can resolve this. The president promised when he was campaigning that he's going to ensure that the funding for universities is going to increase. In fact, he specifically said that the research fund is going to ensure that it is increased. And we hope that if the president is going to do what he promised to the higher education sector, I can assure you that they're really going to be a great change. We don't expect the CES to be giving statements like he did that are generating a lot of heat around. I've also seen students threatening to go on strike. I think that is not the way to go. It needs to come around the table and address. And I want the CES to know that the docket that he has come in has a lot of challenges. It will require a lot of consultation and a lot of soberness and around the table talk with the key stakeholders so that we can see how to address this. There have been two ways that has been proposed to save this. One is to increase the government capitation. Should the government find that they don't want to increase, the other way is to allow the universities to increase the fees, which will also going to generate, that is also going to generate a little fund for the universities. You realize that the school fees that is being paid in the university right now actually has been paid for over 20 years, 16,000 per academic year. I think that is the cheapest you can ever get. So if they allowed that, I know there's been a proposal that they allow that to be increased to around 48,000. If they do that, then those are the two ways. They either look at the increasing capitation or trying to increase something little from the fees.
Thank you so much. I know I've mentioned that was my final question, but maybe lastly, there's been the issue of mismatch between the courses that students learn in school and the job opportunities out here. If maybe you can voice your opinion regarding that. Do you think that public universities or universities in general are offering the skills that are required in the job market?
Well, maybe not, but I know what happens in a university. There is always a periodic review of the curriculum, and therefore, of course, the job market is changing nowadays. You have technology almost in every sector, and therefore, I think what we need to do, or what the universities have been doing, is trying to change their program so that they can match the jobs market. You have also seen, for example, in a certain university whereby they are trying to change some units. It was misinterpreted to mean that they are trying to do away with some courses, but that was not the case. I think the proposal was that they need to maybe to upgrade, or they need to change or to renovate those courses. For example, a few years down the line, there was a compulsory unit that was taught in almost all the public universities, that is HIV/AIDS. Now, those many years back, HIV/AIDS was the real health challenge. But today we have other issues like COVID, we have other pandemics that are coming, so is still HIV/AIDS relevant? Perhaps not. So what we can do is to modify that HIV/AIDS unit that is being taught and maybe put it in a way that is going to equip students with better skills to face pandemic when they are coming, issues like COVID and other pandemic when they come. How do you face them? So that is how we're trying to look at, trying to modify the units that we're teaching so that they can meet the current trend in the jobs market.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maluki Mutue. Thank you so much. That has been Onesimus Maluki Mutio, who is the organizing secretary for UASU, and he has been speaking to us on all matters to do with university funding. Let's now take another break. We'll be back with more stories. Don't go away.
ambazo pia ziko pending, ziko pale
I've mistaken your name. Thank you for staying with us. Moving on, human rights lobby group Haki Africa and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, or DPP Kenya, have hosted Mozambique or DPP at Mathare Social Justice Center in Nairobi in a bid to formulate possible solutions to social injustices which are rampant in the area. Mathare residents have urged the DPP's office to ensure justice prevails as they have lost their loved ones through careless police killings and threats. Speaking during the event, Michael Sang from the office of the DPP assured victims that justice will indeed prevail as they have a right to live peacefully like all other Kenyans.
Ambazo pia ziko pending, ziko pale IPOA, kama zinaweza harakishwa ndio hata sisi tujue mbichi na mbivu ni ipi. Na pia kupitia constitution yetu ya Kenya tunafaa kupata haki kama hata kama sisi ni wenye kutoka vitongoji duni.
There are certain incidences, it's not only one incident where that particular officer is involved. There are several incidences and you have already pointed that out. So each incident has to be documented, and we have to ensure that by the time the case is ready against that particular killer cop, we have evidence from each and every household and each and every victim, so that when we put a case, we put a serious case against him, that we can be able to prove in court and justice will be served.
Now, the Fellowship of Christian Unions FOCUS held a walk in Nairobi over the weekend in their efforts to create awareness amongst university students on the need for accountable leadership developments across the country. More than 500 university students participated in the walk as the organization hopes to raise funds for an infrastructural development initiative dubbed HATUA, which seeks to develop students' training centers in Nairobi, Mount Kenya, Central Rift, North Rift and Western Kenya regions. The walk began on the at the Kenya Utalii College along Thika Road and ended at the Focus Center in Kasarani.
HATUA is a project to equip transformational leaders in our nation by having training facilities, training and mentorship facilities, first in our headquarters in Nairobi, Kasarani, but also in 6 other regions out there. So we are working today to create awareness for the need to raise transformational leaders and seek support, financial support, to construct a student training center, training and mentorship center at Kasarani, where we are able to, our desire is to train about 10,000 students every year.
We are very glad for today. We are doing a walk to help the students raise, because they are the greatest stakeholders and they are committed to this cause. As you can see from behind, you can see them ready and raring to go for the walk. So we are aiming to be able to work with the students today so that they can raise the money that they pledged.
And now for our business news, Equity Bank has enhanced its PayPal withdrawal service by migrating it from the previous web-based portal to Equity mobile app and Equity Online, Equity's internet banking platform. The shift aims at boosting efficiency for Kenyans who receive payments through the international payment solution provider, allowing customers to enjoy seamless PayPal account linking and withdrawal services alongside other bank services on Equity Online and mobile app. Speaking on the upgraded PayPal service, Equity Bank Kenya Managing Director Gerald Waroi said the bank continues to implement its innovation and digitization strategy in line with the One Equity offering to streamline customer experience in centralized platforms and ease access of services at their convenience.
Currently, we are offering PayPal through the web-based platform or the portal, but in our enhancement, we are migrating it to the Equity mobile app and the Equity Online. This is going to create convenience, access, and the speed of service to our customers. There are quite a number of advantages, and one of the advantages is that the customers now will be able to link and have the withdrawal service of PayPal through the Equity mobile and Equity Online alongside other numerous offerings that are given through that platform. Equity Bank is going to be the only bank that is offering 24 hours PayPal withdrawal service in the country. And again, this is going to bring that access, speed of service, convenience, because customers can be able to transact using the PayPal platform wherever they are at any given time.
Now, National Bank of Kenya, NBK, has partnered with the African Guarantee Fund, AGF, to offer a partial guarantee in respect to defaults arising from loans to various private and public sector SMEs in the water, sanitation and hygiene, wash sector, women-led businesses and green financing in Kenya. The 7-year tenor guarantee will cover up to 50% of collateral needs for a qualifying facility, with 75% cover for women and green SMEs. The guarantee will also see the maximum cover for any borrower capped at 100 million shillings. Speaking at the signing ceremony, NBK Acting Managing Director Peter Kioko noted that the facility will go a long way in mitigating the challenge of access to affordable credit for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, in the wash sector.
Coming together, we can leverage our expertise and create solutions that make it possible to transform the environment and the experience our people go through, and still make it commercially viable. In simple language, with the structure that the teams are put together, we will be able to structure a credit sharing that focuses on 3 areas. So water and sanitation, women-led businesses, and green financing. Credit sharing between 50 to about 70%, which makes it even more possible to finance those businesses. But they are bankable anyway. Yeah? They are bankable business anyway. Yeah? So the structuring makes it a lot more robust, and that is possible then with that, so that we can be able to scale it up.
This partnership for us is very important. It's a big step to bring more and more support to the SMEs, more support to our communities.
Now, Ipsen Kenya has pledged to reduce its carbon footprint in efforts to ensure the company incorporates sustainable programs in its manufacturing process. Speaking during a media workshop, Ipsen Regional Head East and West Africa, Mukesh Baxter, noted that they had already put in place plans to ensure that by 2023, the company operates fully within renewable energy.
Ipsen is focused on working with the societies, working with the communities in the markets that we operate in. Just to give you an example of some of the activities that we've already done within the continent, we've currently worked with 800 different organizations in terms of sponsoring printers, sponsoring education materials, simply to enhance and bring quality education to institutions that do not have access to these materials. Of course, the funding that has been set aside will be utilized to further streamline our manufacturing processes, educate our partners, improve recycling processes, and look at working towards becoming more of a key player within the circular economy. One of the key elements that we're looking at is working towards reducing our carbon footprint. Epson internally has several programs in place, several internal goals that we have set for ourselves. But more importantly, we're looking at working fully with renewable energy by 2023. We're looking at being part of UN's Sustainable Development Goals and having all our manufacturing processes aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals as set out by the United Nations.
Now for our sports news, learners in Irigidadi Secondary School in Daraga Sub-County, Nyandara County have embraced Taekwondo in school as a way of equipping themselves with self-defense skills against various risks they might encounter. According to the school's games and Swahili teacher Simon Kingora, the government, through the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Sports, should incorporate Taekwondo alongside other inter-school sports like football and athletics to encourage more students to take the sport seriously.
Na trend kwa shule kwa sababu naona inakuwa mzuri kurudisha wanafunzi chini wasio violence katika shule na pia kufikiria kwa haraka. Sasa ombi langu ni kwa serikali introduce hii kitu kwa mashule na pia iandike walimu wengine, macoach, instructor wa kutrain hii mchezo wa taekwondo, kwa sababu kwa shule naona kuna wanafunzi wengi talented lakini hakuna macoaches.
Ningependekeza ya kwamba iwapo Wizara ya Elimu ingechukua mchezo huu na kuweka katika ratiba ya michezo ambayo inachezwa katika shule za upili, litakuwa ni jambo nzuri sana, kwa sababu tutapata wanafunzi wetu wakiweza kujikuza na vipawa vyao hapa shule za upili, na hata wakitoka kule nje mchezo huu utakuwa umenawiri zaidi hata katika ngazi za kitaifa na kimataifa.
Huu mchezo unatusaidia sika wasichana katika defense, sana sana defense against rape, kwa sababu ukiwa kama msichana unaenda ukishtuka kwa zuji na anaweza akatokea na akakubaka, so inakusaidia kwa self defense na unaweza kupigana na mtu yeyote lakini si kuumiza, kujikinga kutokana na kuumizwa ama kubakwa.
And that sports news brings us to the end of this live broadcast. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Grace Wangoi, and our sign language interpreter tonight has been Boniface Moredi. See you again on Thursday. Bye-bye.